Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. We have an amazing show for everybody today. Extra amazing because Krystal is back. Great to see you, Krystal. What do we
Nice
have
to be
today?
back. Had some things to take care of on Tuesday, but I know Ryan did a fantastic job.
He did. He did a very good job.
Lots to get into, though, this morning. We are starting to get a look at a bipartisan, actually pretty good potential response to Ohio. We can see whether it gets through the House and the Senate, but we'll tell you all about that. Also, new developments on the 2024 front. We've got a bunch of new polls that show Trump extending his lead. And we also have new comments from Ron DeSantis about Trump that are very interesting. Some actually good news on insulin prices. So we will break all of that down for you. What exactly does it mean and how far reaching is it? New report from the government. I guess the government this week is like in the business of admitting things that were obvious for a long time.
Things that were obviously true that they'll just air out into the public.
Guys, guess what? Havana syndrome was fake all along. Their new report says it's not Russia, it's not China. Guess we'll just never know what it is. So anyway, we will break that down for you, as well as a little bit a look back in time at the way that all of this was sold to the public so that we do not forget. And we also have a bit of a warning coming from China towards Elon Musk. And Branko Marcetic is going to be on to talk about the state of democracy in Ukraine. He has a really in-depth report that is worth digging into. But let's go ahead and start with the very latest out of Ohio. Let's go ahead and put this up on the screen in terms of a bipartisan response that is in the works here. We've got a group of 6 senators who are introducing what they're calling the Railway Safety Act of 2023. It is aimed at preventing a repeat of what they describe as the toxic firestorm in East Palestine, Ohio. The senators involved evenly split between Democrats and Republicans. You like to see that. You've got J.D. Vance, Sherrod Brown, of course, the 2 senators from Ohio. You also have the 2 senators from Pennsylvania, neighboring state, where the toxic plume floated. That is Bob Casey and John Fetterman. And then you also have Marco Rubio of Florida and Josh Hawley of Missouri. Details on what they are proposing here. This is according to a summary that Politico saw. The legislation would, number 1, require rail carriers to give advance notice to state emergency response officials before running trains carrying hazardous materials. Apparently, some of the firefighters and other first responders first on the scene had no idea what they were dealing with, which is, bad in terms of response. It's very dangerous in terms of their health. So that's number 1. Number 2, they would mandate trains run with at least 2-person crews. Now, this train in particular did have 3 people on board, but we know this is far from the only derailment that happens in a given year. There are roughly 1,000 train derailments. This is different than other countries around the world. And the rail industry has been pushing, and this is insane to me, to reduce the crew numbers from 2 down to 1. And this is something that others have been entertaining in the past. So that's number 2. Number 3, require better monitoring of rail car wheel bearings, which overheated in the Ohio train accident, according to the NTSB, and likely caused the train to jump the tracks. And number 4, increase penalties for wrongdoing in the industry. So some metrics there to try to hold the industry to account. J.D. Vance said, through this legislation, Congress has a real opportunity to ensure that what happened in East Palestine will never happen again. We owe every American the peace of mind that their community is protected from a catastrophe of this kind. And we have a quote from Sherrod Brown, who, of course, the other Ohio senator. Rail lobbyists have fought for years to protect their profits at the expense of communities like East Palestine and Steubenville and Sandusky. Those are all neighboring communities. These common sense bipartisan safety measures will finally hold big railroad companies accountable. So this is maybe not everything, but this is a real response that could make a measurable difference, and it is very, very encouraging to see.
Yes, it is. And unfortunately, despite the fact that it was introduced in a bipartisan way by both of the senators from Ohio and both of the senators from Pennsylvania, you have these idiot corporate lobbyists, effectively, who are in Congress, who represent from the Republican Party, specifically Representative Troy Nehls. He is on the Transportation Committee. He's one of the leading people who this legislation would have to go through. And let's put this up there on the screen. He's already saying, he's like, well, hold on a second here. We have to make sure that there's not too many burdensome regulations. He said, quote, a lot of people have a lot of ideas right now. The NTSB had their preliminary report. There'll be more information coming. But here's the most disgusting quote that we've seen yet, Krystal. Quote, the rail industry has a very high success rate of moving hazardous material to the point of 99% plus. Let's not have some more burdensome regulations and all this other stuff. The other one, Representative Rick Crawford, who is the top Republican on the rail panel before the House flipped for control, he also said, we need to wait for the experts before, quote, we start speculating on what legislative fixes might be offered if it's necessary. Probably a little premature at this point. You almost cannot make those quotes up. And this, you know, if anything, it just shows you where the continued split in the GOP is. And unfortunately, you know, Holly, Rubio, and Vance are far on the, they are absolutely, you know, away from where the mainstream of much of the party is. They want to use, most of the Republicans in this party want to use it as an opportunity to cleave Buttigieg over the head. Okay, you know, I'm here for that. But then when it comes time to actually increase the fines on the railroad, the other point is on Congressman Nail's point, a 99% plus success rate. Okay, but if the tail end disaster is really bad, then you need to make sure that you do everything possible to make sure that a mass poisoning of an American town never happens again. And this shows you more than anything where the logjam could come from. I also do want to say it's not a guarantee right now that this legislation could pass the Senate. I'm assuming most of the Democrats would probably be able to come on board, but you need 9 Republicans. There's only 4 that are on that list. Can you really get 5 to cross over here?
That's right. Yeah. You need to get to 60. I suspect every Democrat would be on board. The divide here really is in the Republican Party. And it's very interesting. I mean, you can see what the rail lobbyist strategy is here. And this is totally classic. We've seen this a million times before. They just want to delay. They want to kick it down the road.
Experts.
So people forget about all of this. And so the line you're hearing from these Republican House members, many of whom, by the way, are in the pocket of the railroad industry, they want to say, well, we got an NTSB preliminary report, but we got to wait for the final findings before we really come in and figure out what to do. No. We know plenty about this incident and about so many other derailments to go ahead and act. But that's what they always try to do. If they can just delay, if they can just push it down the road until people have forgotten about the emotion and the horror of this incident, then they think they can kill the thing altogether. And look, it works all the time. So it is a good and effective strategy, especially when you have people like these bozos in the House who are ultimately on your side. Let me tell you, there's another piece of the response that J.D. Vance has been proposing. This is also meeting with a lot of pushback from Republicans. Let's go ahead and put this up on the screen. So he's proposing an aid program for this area specifically, because think about it, guys. You got people now. You think you can sell your house in East Palestine?
Yeah, good luck.
What do you think your house is worth now? What do you think this is like now for, you know, people who don't have a choice and have to stay there? Or for people who feel like this is not safe, I need to go. There has been a huge financial hit. You think people are going to want to go and, you know, visit the local coffee shop in East Palestine now and risk whatever's still floating in the air and floating in the water? This is going to be a huge economic hit to this area, which, by the way, guys, has been hit hard many times before. So Vance is pitching a PPP-style program for Ohio. Basically, every Republican that they quoted here was like, let's just wait and see. Again, same thing. They don't necessarily say no, although some of them did come out and basically say no. They're like, let's just wait and see what happens. See what happens down the road, which again is code for let's just wait until everybody forgets about this and we can do absolutely nothing.
Yeah, look, here's Shelley Moore Capito. And you know why this drives me nuts? She's from West Virginia. You should be on board exactly what type, because that'd be good for West Virginia too if you set this precedent. Quote, it's something I'd be willing to take a look at. It would be difficult. I want to see those small businesses get back. I know they're having trouble with that. But how do you quantify a train derailment over some kind of other thing? I don't know. Look at the pre-market, pre-disaster value of a house or of a business, then figure out how much they lose after and try and make them whole again. It's something to consider. I'd have to see how he would enact something like that. Why don't you help him? You're from one of the most impoverished states in the entire country. Yeah. Or here, John Kent, these people drive, same thing, Louisiana. Louisiana, by the way, has its own fair share of horrific environmental disaster.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing. I understand where Senator Vance is coming from. We've all had natural disasters. When we do, we try to help each other. But it needs to be thought through. A little time needs to pass. We don't even know what the health impacts are going to be yet of a train derailment, much less the economic impact. I would look at anything that JD wants to propose. What does that mean? Of course we don't know what the health impact is going to be. Get out in front of it. One of the things that we actually do know is that income is one of the single best determiners of whether you are going to live a long time and be able to seek treatment or not. Good luck if you're poor, you don't have health insurance, or you have some terrible high deductible plan that you're going to go and seek the medical treatment that you would otherwise. You've been talking about Medicare,
Yeah.
about being able. We have to make sure. Look, the whole point of health, something we cover here all the time. Don't just treat the symptom. Try and make sure that it doesn't become a problem. If you've been exposed now to toxic chemicals, man, it's time to kick it into high gear. Like, you've got to really take care of your body and make sure that you are, getting by maybe quarterly blood tests. Like, you need a lot of monitoring. Insurance not going to cover any of that. So why would we wait until you get cancer before we're going to start
10 years down the road when there's a cancer cluster?
Bingo.
Think of how hard it was and how by the skin of its teeth, the legislation, I think it's called the PACT Act, to get
for 9/11.
Yes, no, for toxic burn pit victims who suffered from all kinds of different cancers from their exposure while they were in war zones fighting for our country. Think of how hard it was to get that done in Congress. You think that 10 years down the line, if you have a cancer cluster here, that you're going to be able to get action through Congress? No. If anything is going to happen, it's going to happen now. While the media is still covering it, while this is still fresh in people's minds, while it's still in the news. You wait. You're right, Senator Kennedy. He was the one who made that comment, oh, we don't know what the long-term health impacts are. We don't know. That's why, at the very least, these people should have health care, but they should definitely have economic assistance too. And you want to make Norfolk Southern pay for it? I am all
well, that's
good
what
with
Senator Brown said.
100%.
Senator Brown said Norfolk Southern's going to pay for all of this.
100%.
Yeah.
Good to go with that, but this is no excuse for just turning the other cheek and say, oh, well, we'll just wait and see what happens and hope it all gets better.
Yeah.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.